Today is August the 4th, 2015. My name is Tanya Finchum, and along with me is Madison Warlick, and we're with Oklahoma State University. Today we're in Caddo, Oklahoma, to speak with Wayne Krehbiel, and this is part of our Cowboy in every county, so thank you for having us today.
You're welcome.
Let's learn a little bit about you. Can you tell us when and where you were born?
I was born in a farm home 2 miles west of here. And May the 3rd, 1931. So I'm 84.
You're 84. Did you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother who's a retired college professor at Texas A&M, and he also worked here at Oklahoma State. And I have one sister who's a retired teacher in Texas.
Okay. And where were you? Were you oldest, middle, youngest?
Middle.
Middle.
My brother's 7 years older, and my sister's 7 years younger.
Wow.
So,
They planned that pretty good, didn't they?
I guess. I wasn't there. I didn't have no influence.
What were your parents' names?
Val and Margaret Craven.
Okay.
Or his full name was Valentine, but his Val, they went by Val.
And were they born in Oklahoma?
Yes, he was born at Geary, and she was born on this farm.
Oh. So how did the farm come to be in the family?
My grandfather wanted a draw for a farm, but he didn't like where he was getting drawn, so he traded a team of horses and a wagon load of oats for this farm in 1901 when this area opened up. This was one of the last areas in the state because they called it the Indians' Big Pasture. And if you go just a few miles north, that was opened up quite a bit, several years earlier.
1901, that's over 100 years too.
Yeah.
Where had they come from?
They came from Kansas.
Okay.
My grandfather was born in Russia, and my grandmother was born in Poland, and I had another grandmother who was born in Switzerland, and the other grandfather, I think he was born in Iowa, I'm not sure.
Okay. Been in Oklahoma ever since, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have.
Okay, where did you go to school? When you were in elementary school, where did you go?
Went to Hydro. We lived 2 miles west and a mile north, and that was in Hydro School District, so I went to Hydro for 12 years.
Was it 1 through 12 in the same building?
No, the first building they tore down in my 3rd grade, and then we built a new one, and we stayed in that till they tore it down this year. So.
Hydro's changed a little bit in those 80s.
Well, yes, it's like every town and little town. It's probably more unique than a lot of little towns because it's kind of held its own. And a lot of little towns, all the stores are closed, and the people have moved out, but we're close enough that people can live here and work in Oklahoma City in 45 minutes, or Weatherford, or whatever. Well, we have the college at Weatherford, and it's beneficial to a lot of local people.
We noticed Route 66 comes through.
Right. That was put in the year I was born, and I can remember when one of the first things I can remember is we was going to California, and I just remember getting on old 66 and heading that away. But I know at that time there was a lot of dirt roads, and 66 wasn't completed.
And then I-40 came along and took some
I-40
of...
came, and I think in the 50s, I'm not sure. I think it was probably somewhere in the mid to late 50s.
So if you were born in 31, you graduated high school in 48, 49. Did you have a favorite subject while you were in high school?
No, I didn't have any. I just didn't have any problems with any classes. I just couldn't understand why we had to have English in some of these things. We knew how to speak English. But I was always good and liked geometry and math and that sort of thing. And of course, I was active in agriculture and FFA, and we had a real strong chapter of FFA. So.
Did you have to raise an animal or something for FFA?
Oh, I had several. Yeah, I had sheep and hogs, and no cattle, just sheep and hogs. And
took them to the county fair?
we took them to the county fair and state fair and Fort Worth and different places, you know.
Did you have an outside job, or were you working on the farm in high school?
No, I had just helped my dad, and then he made the wheat harvest, and I went with him on wheat harvest a couple of years, and I still didn't have a driver's license. Before I had a driver's license, we went north. And the year I got out of high school, I took a combine and went on harvest by myself, on my own.
Yeah.
And that's pretty unusual for somebody that young, but we had good luck getting jobs. And
For those who might not know, what do you mean by harvest?
a harvest is you have combines and you go through Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, and Wyoming and harvesting wheat. And
Planned ahead as to who you want to do, or just
I had a lot of contacts that I could make, and in those days we had no cell phones, so I'd go to a payphone and call people or go see them, and in the spring I'd make around to try and contact people that I might get a job with, and you start the wheat harvest gets ready at different times. The further north you go, the later it is. So you start in Texas harvesting, and then come here, and then you go to Kansas, and then you go to Colorado, and then you go to Wyoming, and then you go to Montana or whatever.
a lot of hot, long days?
Well, I didn't think anything about it then. I just, we didn't have air conditioning in cabs. We just sit out there in the dirt, and probably today I suffer from it, because my head stops up and stuff once, and I talked to one fellow that he had a surgery and said that they got a cup full of dirt out of his head but that was just part of farming in those days. You had no air conditioning. You just sit out in dirt and ate the dirt.
Or where would you stay at night?
Well, the first year we just would take a blanket and throw it on the back of the truck, and then later on we had a house trailer, and then after we were married we had a house trailer and a crew and several combines and made the harvest that way. But it was I had a deal with at first with my dad that I'd take his combine and go up through there and pay all the expenses, and when I got done, if there was any profit, I'd split it with him. And that worked pretty good for 2 or 3 years. But I think I made my first trip when I got my driver's license, and before that we had pull-type combines, and I would drive the tractor on the road, and the tractor would run 30 miles an hour, and I'd get there before the trucks would. And one time we sold our pull-type combine, and we had a tractor at Goodland, Kansas, which is 500 miles, and I said, I'll drive it home and I'll beat the rest of you guys home. And I got up at 5 o'clock and never stopped only to fuel up, and I was home by 11. 500 miles. I think I set a record. I don't know. I've never talked to anybody that drove a tractor 500 miles in one day.
Well, it weren't speeding either, I don't
No,
suppose.
but I was the young. No, 30 mile. It run 30 mile an hour.
Yeah.
It had a fast road gear in it. It'd run 30 mile an hour, but you could just set your watch every 2 minutes. You'd run a mile.
Did it have a radio, or how did you entertain?
No, just in the open. It was just.
You just, you're alone with your thoughts.
Yeah. It is a lot of fun.
So your father was in farming?
Yes.
Did your mother have a job off the farm?
No. Those days the women didn't work
Didn't
off
work.
the farm, but he also did soil conservation work, building dams and terraces and helping other farmers who made pretty good money doing that.
Okay. And you were too young to be in World War II.
I was Korea,
Okay.
but Korean War was at the time we were at Stillwater, and we could take ROTC and stay in school, or if we wasn't in ROTC, we would be drafted. And so I took ROTC and graduated with a second lieutenant commission, and prepared to go overseas. And I went to an officer's training school that lasted 15 weeks, and the week before I graduated from that, Korea stopped, and so in turn I was sent to, and then it was Camp Louisiana. They wanted to close it out, so I helped close that out, and then come back and spent the rest of my 2 years in Fort Sill.
Well, then let's back up then. So you finished high school, you went on the road for a little while. When did you go to OSU?
Well, in the winter I went to OSU. Just in
Okay.
the summertime I made
Okay.
the harvest.
So you started at Oklahoma A&M
Yes,
in fall of '49.
yes,
What was your major?
animal science.
And why Oklahoma A&M?
Well, I had a farming background, and I had an interest in it. And I guess maybe my older brother, he was at A&M at the time too. I mean, he was just finishing when I started.
Okay.
Because World War II caught him to set him back, so he didn't get to finish as quick as he should have. But anyway, maybe I was kind of following him. I don't know yet. I didn't at the time think I was coming back to the farm because I didn't feel like I could afford it. But I'd been on the college meets team and got acquainted with some people when we made the trip to Chicago, and we went through a packing house, meat packing plant, and when we got through, one of them, the owner pulled me aside and said, "When you get out of school, come and we'll hire you." That's it. But I never made that trick, because before I got out of the Army, I had an uncle come and talk me into the notion of coming here to farm. So that's how that happened.
Do you remember what your tuition might have been back when you first
Oh yeah, I
started?
had a scholarship for all of my tuition for 2 years. It was $48 a semester. So I had all my tuition paid, and my first job was living in the hog barn and cleaning pens and working with feeding the hogs, and I got 25 cents an hour. The college paid me 25 cents an hour, but I still made money.
And where did you live?
In the hog barn.
You're
There's a room in the hog barn that we could live in, and I said, "I'll just fix it up and live in that." And they said, "Okay."
had its own unique smell.
Huh?
Had its own unique smell.
Oh yeah. First time Verna and I went together, she said, "This seemed like a nice kid, but he sure should wash his feet."
We should say Fern is your wife.
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
And how did you meet her?
Well, we, you know, you accumulate a lot of friends and stuff, and we had a kind of a round of friends, that we just get together. And she was a year younger, and one of her good friends come to Stillwater, and we met her, but I didn't pay no attention to her then. And then she said, "You need to get acquainted with that guy," but so that's how it worked, I guess, isn't it, Fern?
More or less.
More or less that, yeah. But anyway,
And did she live in a dormitory?
yeah, she lived in Stout. It was Stout Hall. Or was it still Stout Hall? I don't know. Stout Hall.
Stout's still there for the time being.
Yeah. And she had a job there, running an elevator, I think, or something.
Cool.
She probably got more money than I did. I don't know.
Did she have a curfew? You had to get her home by a certain time?
Oh yeah, they had curfews. I don't remember what it was. It was real early on the weekday, and at Saturday, I think you could stay out till 10 or 11, probably.
What were some things you would do for a date?
Oh, I don't know. We never went to a lot of movies. We went to once in a while, and we'd just get together with everybody else and visit, and we had nothing. We didn't do anything bad. You know, we didn't get in no trouble or anything like that.
Go to dances?
No, never did.
Play cards?
No,
Oh.
we didn't play cards. I don't remember now what we did.
Sporting events?
We went. Oh yeah, we went to basketball games and wrestling and stuff like that. I never played. I wasn't very athletic, so I didn't play any sports.
Well, how would you get from Hydro to Stillwater?
Well, the first year I had an old homemade motor scooter that I took, but I didn't. They hauled it up. My dad hauled it up there, I think, or somebody did. And I'd run that. Of course, the barn was 3/4 of a mile from the school, so I drove it to school. And then before the end of the year, I bought a pickup, and I would drive back and forth, and I could drive here.
During the term, how often would you come home?
Oh, 3 or 4 times a year. Not very often. I usually stayed there on weekends.
And you mentioned when we came that you worked
Huh?
you worked somewhere on campus besides the barn?
Well, they went from 25 to 30 to 35 cents an hour, and then we got married between my junior and senior year in 1952, and in going to Harvest I made money, and I bought a house trailer, and had a new pickup. When I started the school, I had nothing, and when I got out, I had a house trailer paid for, a pickup paid for, and money in the bank. And so anyway, they approached me. The library was opening up, the new library, and they approached me and said, "Would you be willing to work at the library for 75 cents an hour? You get more money. They'll pay you 75 cents an hour." I got jumped from 40 or 50 cents to 75 cents. But we want you to be kind of in charge of the other students. And we have 2 older gentlemen that's supposed to take care of the library. Well, the one, he was really old, and he just worked a couple hours a day. And the other one, after I went to work there, he got sick, so I was the first person in charge of the janitor work in the library. of a brand new library. So anyway, that's my library story, and I know all the things about it, and we just threw a fit when they went and put orange paint in the fountain, and then they do it on purpose. We went out and scrubbed that thing and worked at it. And of course, I knew every part of that library at that time.
Where was the card catalog?
Huh?
Where was the card catalog at that time?
I don't remember what floor. I think second floor. I'm not sure.
Coming up the big staircase.
Yeah, I believe that's right. It was all.
Well, did you have to help them move into it?
We didn't do any of the moving or anything. All we done was janitor work. My job was just to make sure that all of it was clean and bathrooms were clean and furnished and the rooms were clean.
Didn't have to move the books from the old building to the new one?
No, I didn't do any of that. A lot of that was done this summer before that I started there. It was open in the fall. It was open in the fall of '52.
That sounds right, yes.
And I think, I don't know when they moved it in there, whether they did it in the summer or the spring before, but I didn't start there till the fall of '52.
Did you know Edmund Lowe?
Yes, I did. I'd visit with him every once in a while and clean his room, do his janitor work. But he was a nice guy.
And they named it, the building after him.
Yes, I know. I don't know whether they named that building at that time or not.
I don't know either.
Yes, I can remember his office.
Where was it?
I'm not sure what floor it was, but it was kind of on the south end there. As you come up, seemed to me like it, when you come in on the south, you just go around the corner, and it was right there, I think.
I know they've moved the offices around, so I'm not sure where
Yeah,
his
I don't know
was.
exactly. I remember that part of it. It was kind of pretty well at the front end of the building, or the south end. I don't know. I call that the front end.
Well, did the students sneak in food?
Huh?
Did they sneak in food?
I didn't know that.
Okay, as janitor, I thought you would know if they did.
I don't remember them ever having a trouble with that. Do they now?
They allow it now.
They allow it.
Uh-huh.
Well, as long as they don't allow beer.
As far as I know, they don't allow it.
It'd be all right.
Now, they've carpeted most of the floors.
Yeah, see, we didn't have carpet on most of them. We just cleaned them, swept them.
Easier to clean.
And we did do, I don't remember too much carpeting.
Yeah, they've just done that in the last few years.
I don't remember too much. I remember redoing some of the floors when they built it, they kind of messed them up a little, and we had to kind of sand them down or something and start over with them, refinish them.
Well, the student union was kind of new at that time too.
It was new at that time, yeah. I can't remember whether it was. I think it was built 1 or 2 years before the library, but they had just started on it when I started school in '49. I mean, they just then closed the street and they started to build on it.
So you got to watch it go up.
Yeah, got to watch it go up.
Well, was Theta Pond there?
Yeah,
when you
Theta
went?
Pond was there.
Did you get thrown in when you got engaged?
No, we didn't have anything to do with that.
I hear a lot of people got thrown in though when they got pinned or engaged.
I don't know. I don't know, what did we do on dates? A lot of times we just study.
We usually had friends that were couples.
Yeah,
And
other people. There might have been. Sometimes I'd have 10 or 15 people out there at the barn, and And once in a while on Sunday we'll have a big feed out there, and Dr. Wilhelm was president of the college at that time, and he was always interested in that because that was his job at one time, and we was having a big party out there eating, and he come out and come there through there with us, and we fed him a little bit. But I was real good friends with Dr. Wilhelm's son too, Richard, and he went on to Iowa State, I think now. But I like Dr. Bennett was the president when I went, and he was killed.
Okay.
And then Dr. Wilhelm took over. I think he was the next president. I'm not sure, but
I think that's right. Sounds right.
Dr. Bennett was killed when I was maybe a sophomore.
We were in school.
We were in school when he was killed.
That was sad.
Very sad.
Yeah.
What I hear.
His work is still seen today in Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. Dean Smith over here, he works with a group in Ethiopia that's working on the research station that Dr. Bennett set up.
The .4.
Yeah,
Some-
.4 program.
I think that's right.
Yeah. But of course, afterwards, and the communists took over, and that kind of stopped all of that. But now then, it's kind of getting straightened out. A lot of those countries are getting a little more straightened out. There's still a lot of problems in Sudan and some places.
Well, campus was small enough where you knew the president and he knew you.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know as that happened with everybody, but I never did know Dr. Bennett, but I did know Dr. Wilhelm.
Well, during that time, there were Quonset huts.
Yes. Oh, we had a lot of classes in Quonset huts, and then they had a lot of them over south there, south of 6th Street. Whatever. Yeah. They had a big area in there that people lived in them.
Not Vet Village, but was it?
No, it wasn't Vet Village. It was just a group of those old buildings that when I went to school, they were still living. They was living in those buildings. Mm-hmm. A lot of students were. They couldn't get in the dormitories.
Get cold in the wintertime.
Yeah, when I started school, I lived 1 month in Hanner Hall. I don't know whether it's still Hanner Hall or not.
They tore it down.
And they tore it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived 1 month there, and I decided this is not for me to move to the hog barn.
What didn't you like?
Huh?
What didn't you like?
Oh, I don't know. That was the athletic dorm. And some of those guys kind of bugged me a little bit.
Or they're putting a business building in that space now.
Yeah.
Building it just now, breaking ground for that.
Yeah. Well, there was Hanner and Thacker was on the other side of that, and I don't know whether it's still there.
Thacker's still there.
And that was the 2 main men's dormitories.
Okay.
And then while I was there, they built Cordell. And
It's still there for the moment, but part of it's coming down.
really,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's probably served its time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't even know if they use it for dormitory anymore.
No, it's office space.
And of course, most of the buildings that were there at any length of time are gone. The Animal Science Building and the Dairy Building and all.
Old Central's still there.
Old Central's still there. They're not going to. They thought about tearing it down, but they.
Did you have a class in it?
I had a class in Old Central. I think we had a class together in Old Central, didn't we?
No, you're talking about the law class.
Yeah.
I had a class at Old Central.
But it was, we had one class together and I can't remember what it was.
It was
Business law or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite professor?
Well, I guess I didn't have any problem with any of them that I know of, and I don't know who you would say the favorite was. Of course, I liked my animal science professors because was my major, and but I don't know as I could say any one professor was a really outstanding favorite or anything.
Well, what did you think when they changed the name from Oklahoma A&M?
You know, our county Alumni Association held it up for a while. They wouldn't let them change it, and we was the last one to give in to change the name. It didn't make no difference to me, but there was some of them in our county Alumni Association that just threw a fit and said, "We're going to stop that. They don't need to change it." And I still don't see the advantage of changing it, but it's all right with me.
And they switched from Aggies to Cowboys.
Yes. You know, we was Aggies.
And go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
And I never have figured out the song. It was OAMC, OAMC, and it's not anymore. So I don't know. I just sit there and wave.
So you watch games, or do you go to them?
I had for 20-some years. I had football tickets when the boys were growing up and all, on the 45-yard line and about 20 rows up, just ideal seats. And then my youngest son wanted those tickets, and I had some basketball tickets. My oldest son wanted those. And so that was fine. But then we never, after they redone it, we never did go to the football games much because it's just not for our age. You know, I've gone a few times, but not much. But we kept when they redid the Gallagher Iva, my son is a writer for the Tulsa World that lives in Tulsa, and we like to go and meet them and then her sister lives there at Yale. So we'd go to the basketball games and meet them. So when they expanded it, I called up there and I said, I'm going to give my basketball tickets to my son, and I want 2 for myself, but I don't want to get too high. And they said, well, you got a lot of points or whatever, and it won't be too high. And I said, well, what's too high? Well, him hauled around, and I said, well, I just don't want to climb any stairs. She was having some problems at that time. I said, well, you're old enough, just take the handicapped seats. I said, oh, we're not handicapped. Yes, now listen to us. Please take the handicap because we can't get rid of them. It was new and nobody wanted to get in the handicap. I said, we'll make a deal. You look at that deal and see where you want your seats, and we'll give you those seats. So we've had those handicapped seats ever since they redid how long's that been?
It's been a while. 10 years maybe.
Huh?
10 years or so, hasn't it?
I bet more than that. Yeah, I believe more than that. I don't know.
At least 10.
Yeah, but we've always had connections with grandkids there or her sister, and so we didn't make very many basketball games last year because of health reasons. Because I like to go, she can go, but she has a little trouble getting there.
Got a little bit of orange in your closet then?
Oh, we got orange everywhere. Did you see my Suburban?
No, I hadn't paid attention, but that is really orange.
It's really orange. I had a car that was air conditioner wouldn't work, and I'd take it to the, I'd go on a trip and come back and burning up, and I'd take it to the dealer, and I'd say, fix my air conditioner, and he'd say, well, I'll give you a loaner. So we'd drive the loaner for most of the summer. I'd keep asking him, no, I ain't got it fixed, I ain't got it fixed. So finally one fall, I went in and I said, Chad, he's a young kid that was a dealer, and I said, Chad, quit horsing around and fix it. I'm not going to drive that car this winter. I want you to fix that air conditioner. He said, we cannot fix it. Just trade it all. I said, I don't want to trade it. It's a good car. It ain't a good car because the air conditioner don't work. He said, it'll trade good now, and that's always sales talk. If you trade it, right now, you've had it 4 years and nearly 100,000 miles, you need to trade it. I said, I can't afford it. Yes, you can. I said, well, the only way I'd trade with you is if you get me an orange one. He said, you're always wanting something orange, and you know that they don't make an orange one. I'm going to take a Suburban down to the shop and paint it orange for you. I said, no, you're not. I've got to have a factory orange. So we argued around there for months or two, and I think it was about in December I was in his dealership, and he come in and he said, I got this memo from General Motors, and I can order any special color at no extra charge, and I have already ordered you an orange one. You shouldn't have done that because I don't think I'll have the money. So he called me in March or April and said, get ready, your Suburban's on the way. It's bright orange. So it came in and, come in and get your car. I said, just sell it to somebody else. You know, I know you better than that. If I sold that, in 10 minutes you'd be back in here wanting that orange car. So I left it on his lot for about 3 weeks, and him calling me and everything, and finally one day I said, I tell you what, Chad, the only way I can see that I could get that car is if I'd get a good oil lease. He said, you better get an oil lease. You know, 2 days later I got an oil lease, and I said, the Lord said, quit harassing him. And get that car. And it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. We'd go to Stillwater, and some of the kids that from here would see me, you know, and they'd tell their folks, saw him up here, and then they'd jump me out in town. What you doing in Stillwater? So you can't hide. And when I was in high school, I had an old 1929 Model A car that I drove, but just to high school, and it had no doors, no top, no brakes, and it was just a rat trap. And so I kind of liked that car, and here a couple of years ago I had a chance to buy one like that, and I fixed it up and I painted all black except orange wheels and orange trim. I said Henry Ford wouldn't let me paint it anything else. He said you can have any color you want as long as it's black. But he didn't say anything about the trim.
So orange is an okay color for you, huh?
Yeah, it is. We've had a lot of good association with the university. I've been awarded a distinguished graduate degree and stuff like that with them because of things we've done. And so I told a classmate of mine today, I said, I don't know how I could have had a better life. It's been good.
And partly because of OSU
Oh, of
or
course.
going there.
Yeah, of course.
So you graduated in
53.
53 from there.
Yeah.
Do you remember graduation day? Anything about it?
Well, we graduated, we had it in the auditorium there, in Gallagher, Gallagher then, it wasn't Gallagher, Iowa. And that's about the extent of it, I don't know.
Did your parents come?
I'm sure they did, I think.
Yes, but that was out in the stadium.
Huh?
It was in the stadium.
No,
Football stadium.
no, we didn't have it then. I didn't graduate there, I graduated in the other building. You're thinking of when Randy graduated there.
Mm-mm.
I don't think, I don't know.
So you went and a son went, and now a granddaughter is going.
Yeah, I had 2 sons there, and then I had a couple granddaughters go there, or another one, and Brittany. The other one is really a sharp gal, and when she was in high school, she went to school in Tulsa, and they was on the academic. She was on the academic team, and in fact captain of the academic team, and they always won every year at state. And so when she got to OSU, they didn't have an academic team, and she established one. And then they tried to get OSU to help support it with some funds or something, and they said, no, we got to make sure it works. And then when she got in graduate school, she got on Jeopardy and won some money. And she took that money and gave it to the academic team there to carry on. Of course, I'm sure I don't know whether they got it anymore or not, but
I don't know either. I'll look when I get back.
yeah, I don't know whether it's still going or not. But her dad is a writer for the Tulsa World and been for 40 years. And she wanted a job with the Tulsa World and couldn't get it, so she set up her own. She's a private writer, what you call it? Not what do you call it? But then she's got started writing Indian news, and she writes for Indian papers, newspapers like Indian Times and whatever. Native American Times, I think it's called.
Someone put up a hurdle, she goes over it.
Yep, she's doing real good. In fact, now that in Tulsa World offered her a job, and she turned it down and said, I'm doing too good on my own. You don't need it. Don't need you. But she still writes for them some on a per item basis.
Well, when you graduated, what did you do? Did you come back here?
When
right
I
away?
graduated, I had to spend 2 years in the service.
Okay.
Everybody did. And while I was there, and a year before I got out, I had an uncle that I was at Fort Sill, and he came down there and said the farm, the homestead here, had 11 heirs, and they wanted to sell it, but they would like to sell it to someone within the family, and said, we've been offered a certain price for it, and we'll sell it to you for that. And I said, I can't buy nothing. He said, no, listen to me. He said half of them, it would amount to each one getting about $2,200 a year, for their part. And he said half of them will not take their money now, they'll take it 1 year at a time. And the other half you can go to the bank and borrow the money, except you'd like a little bit. You got any money? And I said, yeah, I've got, I don't know, $1,800 in the bank. And he said, that's just enough. I said, what if I lose it? So anyway, that's how I got back to the farm. And the first 10 years probably, we made the wheat harvest. But then I got involved in other businesses that I couldn't go. I had to stay here, and one thing led to another. I've had several pretty good businesses along the way.
A little oil well.
Well, yeah, we had some production from oil wells, and that helps, of course. But that has been really a factor till maybe the last 3 or 4 years.
How many acres do you farm?
Well, I only got about 1,200 now. And actually, Brittany and her mother, I'm a volunteer for a nonprofit organization. I work every day for them, and I get enough money from my oil, and it don't matter whether you got anything or not.
Enough to put gas in your orange.
Yeah, I
Suburban,
don't drive it that much. They furnish me a pickup to do things, you know. And anyway.
We lost one boy.
Huh?
We lost
Our youngest son, yeah.
Brittany's
Brittany's
dad.
dad died of cancer in
dad.
11.
Hmm.
So and she said I promised him that I'd carry on, and so that's what she's going to do.
Well, it's a nice place. I can see why you'd want to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she lives in this, you can see right through here, a big house.
Hmm.
That's their house there.
So they can keep an eye on you.
Yeah. But I had some of the land that my son had bought earlier, and about 480 acres of it.
Well, did you insist on them going to OSU, or did they choose to?
I never insisted on anybody going any place. That's their choice. I had one grandson that didn't, because he thought he could be on a soccer team. He liked soccer, and so he went to Drury and didn't. He didn't make the team, but he done well. And then when he graduated, he got a scholarship to go get a doctorate degree in political science for $6,600, $66,000 a year at Washington University, and he's finishing that up this year.
Wow.
And he'll have his doctorate, and he'll be a college professor. So he's smart anyway, even though he didn't go to SU.
He came from good stock.
I don't know about that. Yeah. Anyway. But I've traveled a lot of places, and enjoyed life, and done a lot of different things. I spent most of 3 years in Saudi Arabia developing farmland, and I've worked with a mission group to establish churches throughout the world. And this group last year established over 1,400 new churches, and their job is to train people, native people, to be church pastors. But in doing that, they also
Brittany?
train them to make a living.
Brittany.
There's our granddaughter, Brittany. But anyway, that's been a kind of a good thing.
Stayed busy.
Huh?
So when did you retire, or have you?
You know what? I've always said that I kind of watch people, and all the people I know that retire dies sometime. And I figured I might as well live a little longer.
That makes sense to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes sense. Why retire if you're going to die?
So you mentioned earlier about the Alumni Association for this county.
Uh-huh.
You're active in it?
You
or
know,
work?
I was for years, but I haven't been lately. I should be, but I haven't been.
Well, what sort of things would they do?
Well, our county was really pretty strong, and one thing, we provide scholarships for anybody that wants to go to OSU, and they did at that time when all along. And then they get together and they would go to some place else, to a football game or something, And I don't know. We haven't been very active on the County Alumni Association. We should be, but it's 40 miles over there and don't do it.
We
Yeah.
noticed the mounds out here. What are those?
I wasn't here when they put them there. I don't know. I've heard all kinds of things. They claim that during the Ice Age, I've heard one explanation that during the Ice Age, those were probably like buffalo wallers or something, and it solidified the rock there where they stayed in one place, and consequently, when the Ice Age come and it bulldozed all this land off, it left those there. I don't know. It could be that.
Is it part of your land?
Not that, I've got one place there south, the Hydro, that has a hill on it. And they took at one time they had a rock crusher on it, and they put all the base from the river bridge here for 30 miles off that hill upon Interstate 40. Sold all that. It was my dad's, and he got enough to build a new house just at a nickel a ton.
Hey, all adds up.
Yeah, adds up. Yeah, they're running 100 trucks a day out there for a year. More.
Would have been interesting to watch.
Yeah. In those days, when they built the Interstate 40, they didn't have semis. It was just bobtail trucks.
Took longer then.
Just little dump trucks.
Well, during the WPA, no, you wouldn't have been.
Yeah, of course, I know the WPA. That stands for We Pedal Around. That's what we always said. But they come through the country and built some culverts and built outhouses and some things like that.
Do anything on your farm?
They didn't do anything on our place. They built a culvert by our house, but that's all. And just a little block deal in front, and I don't know, I just remember a lot of guys there not doing anything.
Did they do anything in hydro? Do you know?
I don't know of anything, I wouldn't have been familiar with it, but I don't remember them doing anything.
And you wouldn't have been very old at that point.
They might have built the community building. I don't know whether they had anything to do with that or not.
Okay. Long time ago.
That was a long time ago. It was not in existence after I was probably 10 years old.
Well, I noticed hydro has a co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Was it there when you were younger?
Yes, it was not right there. They built all of that afterwards, but it was on East there, which they all tore the old elevator down, but there was a hydro co-op.
And the town's up on a little hill?
Well, it goes out, it goes down and then up on the hill, and the railroad when I was growing up was pretty popular there, and when they opened this country, the railroads brought people in there.
When you were younger, did you have chores on the farm?
Oh yeah, we milked cows. And then in the summertime, I'd herd cattle on the side of the road, and take them to other pastures and stuff. I had a little pony that I drive the cattle to feed. We grazed on the roads and had another pasture rented, and sometimes we'd run them on somebody's wheat stubble.
Would you get paid?
Oh no.
No. Another volunteer work, huh?
That's all volunteer. I don't know. I had probably a little bit of cash from my FFA projects, but not much. Didn't need much.
What would you do for fun?
Well, I don't know.
Do you have a pond to go swimming or fishing?
No, didn't ever go fishing. We'd sometimes in the wintertime, if it was ice and snow, we'd slide down the hill in the scoop shovel or something like that. But I don't remember any special thing we did.
Too busy working?
You know, when I was younger, I played with toys and ride that horse every day.
What was its name? Do you?
Sugar.
Sure.
Sugar. The Shetland pony.
So if someone asked you where you considered home, it'd be Hydro?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I'm kind of privileged to be the same distance from Hydro and Bridgeport and Sickles and Hinton. So wherever we want to be, that's where we are.
Well, where do you take your crops now?
Mostly either Hinton or Hydro. It don't matter.
And I should
And
ask.
then we don't necessarily haul to the local elevators. We raise a lot of seed wheat now, and if the wheat that we don't raise for seed, a lot of times we sell it direct to the port and bypass the elevator. They don't like it that well. I think it loves it. We do real good doing that.
How do you keep up with the weather?
You have to take whatever they give you.
Do you keep up with Mesonet or just watch
Absolutely. I wake up every morning and go to the Mesonet.
Really?
And of course we work it all over the state with our business, with irrigation business. And so a lot of times I can send them someplace, say it's not raining here, you need to do this. And with a Mesonet too, you can get radar of any place in the area you're working, and they'll be working at Fort Smith or someplace and call and say, hey, it's raining here, look and see how long it's going to rain. And I can look on a Mesonet and say, you're going to get a lot, come home, or just hold tight for about 10 minutes and you can go back to work. So the Mesonet is really a good thing for us. It really is. And I always say the people on TV are show monkeys. They got to make a big show out of everything, and it never even happens. And the Mesonet will give you pretty accurate. I can look up there in any particular place. They have a Mesonet station every 20 miles, and I can look up there and say, pick up for the next 84 hours what it's going to do each hour at any place in the state.
So you stay on top of that.
Oh yeah.
So you're not retired.
Nope. No, I'm not retired.
If you're controlling crews from all over, as long as you're working all over the state,
Yeah.
keeping tabs.
I'm not traveling like I did. I did a lot of traveling, and I've probably been on about every road in Oklahoma. Now, there's a lot of them in the southeastern I haven't, but most of the rest of them I've been there. But I use a phone a lot.
So you're doing irrigation systems, is that what?
Yeah, center pivot irrigation.
Center pivot.
And then we install some pumps and stuff like that. Help a farmer establish an irrigation system.
Water's a pretty big
Water's
deal.
a big thing.
Well, do you still have your the windmill from the original farm?
No, it was sitting here and it finally just blew down. I've only got one farm with a windmill standing anymore. And it's not hooked up. We don't use windmills anymore. You can use, we don't have solar pumps, but you can use a solar pump pretty good and keep water.
Well, do you have any other OSU stories you want to share with us?
Oh, I don't know.
Pistol Pete wasn't the mascot when you were there, was he?
I think maybe they started it then. Did they first?
Well, you know, Michael was right in there at the first.
Well, yeah, but of course he would been 15 years afterwards. He was, but I think that you know, we knew the original Pistol Pete.
Frank Eaton?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, and he would come there to Stillwater every once in a while, and so I can't say that was I can't remember that.
Well, it might not have been until they switched the names.
Huh?
They may have introduced him when they switched the names.
That might be right. I'm not sure.
I'm not either, but I think that may be.
Yeah.
So when was the last time you were on campus?
Well, I was there, I don't know.
That's a basketball game.
Yeah, but I think I've been there since then. I go quite, you know. So.
Well, you went to get seed.
Yeah, and then we did some work for the university with their irrigation too. And I've been up there last month. You know, I go up there some. But to go to the specific classroom or something, I don't know when. It's been a while.
You have to come in the library and I'll give you a tour.
Yeah, I need to do that. You know, it's a lot bigger now than it was then. They added on to it on the north there.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
And their card catalog's not there anymore. They
Yeah.
took it out.
Yeah, it's all looking in the screen.
Yes.
I can do a little of that, but I'm not too proficient at it.
Well, I'm impressed you used the Mesonet. That's technology too.
Well, and I like to read everybody's Facebook and stuff like that, and then we get a couple emails. One from Ron Hayes on agriculture, and I see the one on that's Bonner puts on energy, oil production and stuff, and then I see there's one that that comes on every day on the Thunder, and I've never been to watch a ball game, but we watch them on TV, and we I'm able to do some things, but I'm not really efficient. I can't use everything on my phone either. I don't know what all of that is,
But you have one. That's
yeah, I got one. I can push the buttons. But Brittany can help me.
I have help too.
Yeah.
Well, if there's not anything else, I'll say thank you
Well,
for sharing with us today.